Hey, this is Ralph, and I want to welcome you to our Module 7 topic where we get into the beginnings of how to make a web page. And we're calling it Introduction to Web Publishing, even though I might be using the word web development a bit here and there. I kind of like the word web development a little bit better than web publishing, but they're pretty interchangeable. Now this video is going to be a little bit different than normal. Normally for these intro videos for our particular modules, I'm going over a PowerPoint. However, if I check out my topic schedules, I'm kind of a spreadsheet nerd, so I keep track of our topics and our activities and the PowerPoints and videos that I make on a spreadsheet. And I don't have PowerPoints for this Introduction to Web Publishing topic. So I'm okay with not having that because in the past, and what my intention was for you folks this summer was, I'm going to have you rely on the assignment. And in the assignment, I've got a couple of longer videos, about 40 minutes each, going over how to create this web page. So I'm kind of working on the assignment with you. And I'm quite content with that, especially since this topic is so hands-on. Doing a PowerPoint, not terribly exciting. However, we recently practiced a little bit with AI bots and tools, chatbots and tools. That was our Module 6 topic. And I want to keep using that stuff. I want you to keep using that stuff. So I had the idea a little bit ago, say, you know what if I used ChatGPT, that's going to be the AI chatbot that I happen to use today, as opposed to Gemini or Copilot. What if I use a ChatGPT product to see if I can create a PowerPoint presentation on our Introduction to Web Publishing topic? I'm going to give that a shot. So I've got a few ideas here. I want to use AI to create the presentation, basically the outline of the topics and stuff like that. And if that seems reasonable, I also want to use the ChatGPT program or interface to create the generate the Visual Basic code that we could use to more automatically port this content into PowerPoint. I haven't done this before, so there could be a lot of quick edits in the video where I screw up and try again and stuff like that, but that's cool. And then I want to go over the slides with you because as we have learned these, last week, these chatbots are not 100% accurate. So it's really critical that if you rely on any AI chatbot for learning and information and content, that you already know a lot about the content so you can verify what information is accurate or inaccurate, or you use other sources to confirm. Trust but verify. So I'm going to go over some of those slides with you and see if we can't spot any weaknesses in their explanations. And then when we do see some really good stuff, or bad stuff for that matter, we'll jump over to Visual Studio Code, which is where I'm at right now, so that we can test things out. And we'll be able to kind of see what's up, and maybe I'll point at some individual things. Now this video could be kind of long, but I will definitely create chapter breakpoints. So it's going to be on YouTube, and if you look at the bottom part of the video, you'll see little breakpoints, and if you look in the video description, I'll have chapter titles in there, which you can click on, I believe, and that will take you to that specific part of the video. So I'm definitely going to do that, but I want to try to do this entire demonstration and presentation all in one. Now my PowerPoint's probably not going to have any cool images and stuff with it, so I might do that off camera if I decide to add that later on. Well, let's get to it. So let's see. I am using the Arc browser for a number of things. I'm already signed into ChatGPT. Now I am using the paid version of ChatGPT. It's like $20 a month, which I use with my department. And we'll see how that goes. I'm not going to test this in Gemini or Copilot, but I am kind of curious how that would work. So I'll probably do that on my own later on. And let's go ahead and give it a start. I've already created a new ChatGPT using 4. ChatGPT 5 is coming out pretty soon, I think. I read an article about it this morning that it's slated to be released pretty soon. So I'm curious what ChatGPT 5 is going to bring us. But let's give this a start here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and write this up. I am a What is it going to do about this? I've never done this before. I'm really kind of curious to see what kind of results we're going to get. So I feel like it's a pretty good description. Now, of course, this can all be refined. So if the results aren't satisfactory, we can certainly refine those. So I'm going to see what happens here. I'm going to go ahead and press my Enter key. I'm not really fond of the structure here. They're explaining what I can do. So they're using the word title in here, introduction to HTML. What is HTML? Okay, but we are getting some code samples. I don't know, maybe the structure is not so bad. It's kind of explaining what each slide might be about, and it's being very descriptive. But part of my goal for this video, this demonstration, is I also want to get the Visual Basic code so we can port this automatically. So we might have to clean up the language a little bit, or we'll just kind of see what happens here. I'm just kind of checking these out as they go, and things are looking pretty cool. Oh, they do a little bit on CSS Grid, which is nice. This would be for making a 2-column layout. One fractional unit, one fractional unit. Okay, now since I asked for 15 of the most common CSS properties, I see, it's kind of making one slide with all of that. I guess that's not bad, I suppose. Boy, they have overflow and cursor on there. I don't think I would have included those in my most popular 15, but hey, I kind of asked for 15 knowing that I might delete some of these. A little bit on CSS Flexbox. But of course, it's so minimal that you're really not going to get much learning out of this. However, it is kind of good that they do that, because in the assignment that you're going to be working on, we do use Flexbox. In fact, I did a little test page yesterday with one of your classmates via Zoom, and we were doing a little bit of Flexbox in here to create this quick layout. Okay, I guess it's all right. I don't feel like I'm blown away by these results, and I don't know what I was expecting. Okay, let's see. How about this is good. However, ... Shift Enter. Okay, I'm back. All right, I guess it's better. Can't say I'm still blown away by this, but I'm ready to move on to the next phase of the plan. And let me remind you here, we've used AI to create the PowerPoint presentation. All right, mediocre, I don't know, C level work, I guess. Looks like the text descriptions were a little bit better. It didn't split up the slide contents the way I wanted to, but in theory, I guess we could do that after the fact in PowerPoint as well. But now I want to see if I can't use ChatGPT to create the Visual Basic code so that we can just stick this right into PowerPoint and have it generate automatically. I've not done that before, so it might be a little bit of trial and error on my part. I know there are some YouTube videos on how to do that. I've seen them out there, and I've watched one before, but it's been a number of months ago just to see how that works. So let's see. Back over to the Arc browser. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say this is pretty good. Generate, I can't spell the word generate the VB code I can use to copy and paste this into PowerPoint. I don't even know if I have to say developer. That PowerPoint macros to build this presentation. All right. Might be kind of long, but in theory, if we get something good, I should just be able to copy and paste this. And it looks like, I don't know Visual Basic, but it looks like structurally it's doing the right thing. Okay, it's getting my code samples in there. I don't know how those are going to look, but we shall see, right? Yeah, it looks like it paused there. I don't know if it felt like it was giving such really long content. Okay, there's the insub. Oh, it even gives me some instructions for use. This looks nice. I open PowerPoint, press Alt F11 to open the VBA editor. In the VBA editor, insert a new module by going to Insert Module. Copy and paste the above code into the new module. Close the VBA editor, press Alt F8 to open the macro dialog box, and select Create Web Dev Presentation, which is the macro name. I guess they're assigning it up near the very top. And run it. This will generate a PowerPoint presentation with the provided content formatted into slides. Well, certainly sounds optimistic. So I'm going to go ahead and open up PowerPoint. And I guess I'll just go to a blank presentation. And let's see, I'm going to grab my Arc browser and I'm going to move this off to the side for a little bit so it's on my other monitor. So I'm in PowerPoint, haven't done anything fancy yet. I'm going to go ahead and save this though. So I'll click on File. Here's the start of that. Okay, so I'm going to follow the instructions which I have off to the side. Open PowerPoint, press Alt F11 to open the VBA editor, which I believe is all under the, oh, let me get my tabs. Always show the ribbon. There we go, or the ribbon. Okay, so Alt F11. Okay, there's our VBA editor. In the VBA editor, insert a new module by going to Insert Module. Insert Module. There we go. Copy and paste the above code into the new module. All right, that might take a little bit, so let's see. I'm going to, oops, I need to scroll that far. Get the whole thing, Control-C to copy, click over in my editor, Control-V as in Victor to paste. Too many line continuations. Okay, I'm back. I just pasted in a new version of this. So, yeah, basically there's too many, I think, line continuations, which I assume are similar to concatenations here. So the first thing I did was I asked ChatGPT, in fact, I can bring this back over. I asked ChatGPT to rewrite this without the code samples. I figured maybe you know, those code samples were just multiple lines each. I figured, let's take those out. It was still giving me issues because I want to be able to copy and paste this in one chunk. So then I asked it, okay, reproduce. I specifically said reproduce this code with fewer line continuations, which was the problem in the VBA editor. And it gave me this final version here, which I just successfully copied and pasted into the interface. So back over to the directions, copy and paste the above code into the new module. We'll see what we get. Close the VBA editor. Oh, there's the VBA editor up there. And then press Alt F8. And then I can launch this macro here. Or I can click it and choose Run, or I could double click it. I will click it and choose Run. And, okay. All right, this is not so bad. We've got our slides. It looks like they're all title layouts, which is not a deal breaker for me because, you know, we can certainly, I think we can click on this one, scroll down, shift click on this last one and change the layout. Let's do a 2 content layout for all of those. There we go. Yeah, that's not so bad. Let's see. So let's go through a couple of these things here. So this is our main title slide, Introduction to Basics of Web Development, including the history, key technologies, and foundational concepts. This presentation will guide you through the evolution of the web, HTML, and CSS. All right, sounds pretty good. And let's jump down here a little bit. Maybe we'll hit a few with our own code samples so that we can kind of move on. I don't really care for the formatting they do on here. For instance, I don't think this requires a bullet point. I think at least single line spacing would look good. But this is all stuff we would do later in PowerPoint. PowerPoint isn't necessarily a topic in our CIS178 class, but many of you have learned PowerPoint skills from other classes that you've taken and stuff like that. The web began in the late 1960s. I don't know if I like the way they have phrased that. So this is what I want you to be careful about whenever you're relying on any AI chatbot for information. Not 100% wrong, but certainly not 100% correct. The internet began in the late 1960s with the creation of ARPANET, a network for military and research institutions. Yes, that's true. It was ARPANET was created in 1969. under the guidance of JCR Licklider. And it was funded by the Department of Defense. ARPA stands for Advanced Research Projects Agency in 1969, in the late 60s. The web was not around then. The web is a different service, related, but the web is like software that runs on the internet, which is like hardware. And I think I just hit a space or something. So the internet began in the late 1960s. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. True. World Wide Web is also the name of the first web browser he had to create in order to create this. He had to create several things, right? He had to create HTML, the language used to create the web. He had to invent the first web browser, which was all text-based back then, and it was called World Wide Web. 1989, enabling the creation of websites and hyperlinks. True. The web has evolved rapidly, introducing technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Sure enough. I mean, HTML was there from the very beginning. CSS and JavaScript came on a little bit later. So the web is out in 1989. However, I don't think it was even really released and available for use until like 1991. I think 89 is generally the year when he started the project or proposed the project. Came out in 91. So in the early 90s, the general public, you and me, we didn't know about the web. You know, we were using America Online, maybe Prodigy or CompuServe. America Online really got popular in the early 90s. The web has evolved rapidly, introducing technologies HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, leading to the dynamic and interactive web we use today. All right, fair enough. Okay. Let's see. Tim Berners-Lee is a British computer scientist known for inventing the World Wide Web. In 1988, proposed the system. Okay, so it kind of gives us details on this here. Using hypertext documents. Something else I also like you to know about, Tim Berners-Lee, British citizen for sure. He was working at CERN in Switzerland. So CERN is a big research facility for physicists and astrophysicists. It's where the big Hadron Collider is, big ring-shaped building. I think that topic came up in one of our earlier modules about the history of the internet. So, all right, I'm feeling pretty good about this slide. How the internet works. Global network of internet-connected computers rely on servers, store and deliver data. True. And client computers. I'm at a client computer. We're all at client machines right now. Internet service providers facilitate these connections, transmitted using the transmission control protocol, internet protocol, ensuring reliable communication. Sure, it doesn't go into detail on what those are, but remember, this is just kind of a general piece of information. Introduction to HTML. Tags, structured content, headings, paragraphs, images, defines the layout, content of a web page, which is interpreted by web browsers. Yeah, I don't know if I like that they use the word layout here. Definitely I like the use of the word structure. It defines the structure and content of a web page. When we start to use the words layout, that sounds more presentational, and I would rather we use the word layout when it comes to topics like CSS. So I'm going to change that word to structure and content of a web page. HTML follows structure, doc type declaration up at the very top, HTML tag, entire document, head section contains meta information, body section contains the content displayed on the web page. It's all true. That's very good information there. Headings range from H1 to H6, with H1 being the most important. Yeah, sure, I'll accept that. Headings organize content and improve accessibility and SEO. True. Okay, so if we jump over to our Visual Studio Code here, a VS Code made by Microsoft, available free, great web editor. And let's see what page we are looking at right now. I'm just going to hit my my Go Live, which will take me in here. Here we go. So this is this web page that I've got set up at the moment, and that we can use as filler. By the way, this is a responsive page too. So if I were to Control-Shift-I, and if we see this in a narrow platform, it's going to be a one-column layout, and there it is in the wider column layout with the side at the bottom. Okay, so that is cool and interesting. Okay, so let's scroll on down to the body of the page. This is where the visible content of our page lives and exists and stuff like that. I'm just going to move right over into the main section, and let's give ourselves a quick experimentation with heading 1. This is a heading level 1. And I'm just going to do a control copy and paste. And we'll change this out to 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I will change all of these as well. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, we don't use these different headings to designate the order. For instance, if I use a heading 1, the next heading is not necessarily a heading 2, although it probably is. But if I use a heading 2, the next heading is not heading 3. And if I use a heading 3, the next heading is not heading 4. Think of this as like the heading 1 as being the page title, the title of the book. And the heading 2s would be key section titles, like titles of chapters within a book. So you might make a web page using a heading 1 for the very top, and then nothing but heading 2s. Now, occasionally, a heading 2 chapter might get really big and you want to break that up into some smaller subsections. In that case, if I have a large heading 2 section, I would use heading 3s to break up within that heading 2. I rarely create web pages that use heading 4, 5, and 6. Occasionally heading 4. I can't remember the last time I've really needed to use heading 5s and 6s. That's a pretty deep content, pretty deep structure. Possible, but rare. So we can accept this though. Heading 3 would not be used unless I am breaking up a heading 2 into smaller parts. So I will not use heading 3 unless I've used heading 2. I will not use heading 2 unless I've used heading 1. Now that I've made the modifications on this page, I've got these heading levels. We'll jump back over to the browser. Oops, that's not my browser. There's my browser. And we can see I've got those headings on there. Now, H1 or heading 1 is the most important. It's also it's the largest. These have some built-in sizes. Headings are also bold by default, although we can change all that. But heading 1 does describe visibly what this page is all about. So web page titles, visible web page titles would be the thing we would often put in an H1. And they're definitely important for organizing content and improving accessibility and search engine optimization. I agree with all of those statements. Paragraphs are very, very simple. Use the P tag, and they are what you would think. Now, a paragraph doesn't have to be, a collection of sentences. A paragraph could be one particular sentence. And if we're using our VB code here, we might say, hey, this paragraph right here, I'll just do a little lorem ipsum text. This paragraph is included within a set of paragraph tags, and it would simply produce some regular text. Now, I am getting a little bit of a layout anomaly here, but I'm not going to fix that right now. That's just because my content is so big on this. And do I want to show you how to fix that? I kind of do. So let's see. The issue on there is my main has a flex of auto. Let's see, my aside has a flex basis of 300 pixels. So in a pinch, let's change this. I'm going to change this out to 30%, and I'll change this auto over to 70%. That might give us a temporary satisfactory result. Yeah, I don't really care for what it's doing over here, but I wonder then, can I do a max width? What did I have? 300 pixels there before, I think? Yeah, that might be a little bit better. Yeah, because I don't want that aside to get too big there. Okay, that may affect my mobile display, but good enough. And you can see there's that paragraph text right there. And while I'm here, we can format that paragraph a little bit differently. Now, this paragraph is special, right? I could have a bunch of paragraphs on this page. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'll put another paragraph right there and another paragraph right there. So now I've got 3 paragraphs after the heading. But let's assume the paragraph that follows the heading 1 directly is very important. So what I can do in my styles, I should do this up here, is I can write it this way, H1 plus P. This is basically the paragraph that is immediately next to or adjacent to my heading 1. And for this paragraph, I'm going to do text align center, and I'll go ahead and write color white and font style italic, just to really emphasize it. So the paragraph that's immediately adjacent to my heading 1 is going to have these characteristics. So when I look at my web page, and say, oh yeah, definitely that paragraph is different for sure. I can also add a little bit of margin. I'll do 20 pixels top and bottom, 8 pixels left and right, and that's really going to accentuate that a little bit more clearly. In fact, I'm also going to set a max width of 90 CHs, which is 90 characters, and now it makes it a little bit shorter. And instead of my margin being 8 pixel left and right, I'm going to change that to auto margins left and right, and that will center that paragraph there. There we go. So a little bit of styling with that paragraph. Let's go back to our AI-generated PowerPoint. That's not it. That's a blank one, it looks like. Oh, I was going to make this the other day. So I guess I should close this, and I'll say don't save. Looks like there's nothing on it, and I'll go back to this one. Okay. I was going to create a PowerPoint yesterday the old-fashioned way, but no, this might be the way to go. HTML images. The image tag embeds images. Source attribute specifies the image source, and the alt attribute. Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, just so happens on this page that I was making yesterday with one of your classmates, we get a little image here. Now this image is kind of funky looking for sure. This is an SVG or scalable vector graphic image, and it's unlike the most common images you might use on the web. Common images would be JPG for JPEG, GIF, GIF images, PNG, portable network graphics images. Those are going to be what you see most of the time, and also WebP, which I believe is Google's proprietary image format, which is also very nice. But this is an SVG image, and we actually used AI to create the code for this. I wanted an SVG image of 3 mountains with some stuff, and I screwed around with this a little bit. So let me copy this code here, this color code. I was just showing him how he could change out the code once it's been generated. So I've got this SVG image. I'm going to jump back over to my web page, and I will stick this in the footer. Okay, I will put it, let's see, here we go. I've already got a footer. Oh, that's right, we're going to do the image tag. So let me do it this way. I was going to do a CSS background image, but we'll stick it in the footer this way. So yeah, what the PowerPoint described to us is we use the image tag, source equals, what did I call it, test1.svg, alt equals, this would be SVG image of mountains and trees. So the alt description there is useful because if somebody has a vision impairment, they can't see this image, the alt text will describe the image to them that they cannot see. They're probably using an oral browser that reads aloud to them, or a Braille browser, so they can read it with their fingers. And definitely very important. The Olympics are going on right now, and I believe it was the Sydney Olympics some 20 plus years ago, or the Atlanta Olympics, maybe 25 years ago, where IBM was creating the website for the Olympics, and they left alt attributes out, and they were sued because of that, and they lost that lawsuit. So we want to get those in there. So yeah, so we've got image, source, and alt are probably the most critical. And now I happen to know for a fact this image is kind of big, so when I head over to the web page, there's that image. It's just really huge in there, taking up a lot of space, but actually, not really too bad, I suppose. Now, if my browser was smaller, oh yeah, my SVG image is getting smaller as well. It must be sized to 100% in the SVG code. So actually, I can live with that. But there's the SVG generated image, and clearly my snowy peaks look a little bit askew, but otherwise, mountains, 3 mountains, the 3 sisters of Central Oregon, with some pine trees. We got lots of pine trees here. Okay, so that's the use of the image tag. There's also a picture tag, which is pretty cool too, but image is very popular, IMG. HTML hyperlinks. The anchor tag creates hyperlinks. The hyperreference attribute specifies the URL of the linked page. For sure it does. So I could head back over to our code, and let's see, I'll head up to the header this time. And I'll simply write the text, visit COCC. Okay, so this is just text. That text is just going to show up on the web page normal, like it's a plain old paragraph. But in front of the words, I'm going to put the anchor tag with a hyperreference attribute. and then in quotes, https://www.cocc.edu/ closing quote, angle bracket, and the closing anchor tag, A stands for anchor by the way, goes right after that COCC. So now the visitor on the web page is going to see the words visit COCC, and when they click on that, it will take them to this particular web page. I'm going to throw in target equals underscore blank. This attribute value combination, basically when somebody clicks this link, it's going to go to the COCC website, but it's going to open up a new browser tab automatically. I'm not necessarily a fan of doing that a lot, but in this situation I am going to do that. So if I head back over here, I can see the link, visit COCC. Now you notice it's purple. You may not be able to see that very well, but it is purple, which indicates it's a visited hyperlink on my system. Basically, the COCC website is in my browser's history, which it very likely is. So if I click on that, new tab opens up, and we head on over to the COCC website. However, I can go back to my original page, which is a separate tab over there. And that is the basics for making a hyperlink. Looking pretty good. HTML lists. I'm not going to demo this, but they are used heavily on web pages. In fact, practically all navigation menus you see on websites are created using unordered lists. That's what UL stands for, unordered list, which by default is a bulleted list, but we could style those very dramatically so they look like things other than an unordered list. And I think in the assignment, do I still have the assignment directions open? They are in the Arc browser. Oh, my Arc browser is over here. And here's the assignment that you're working on. That's right, we do a little mock navigation menu up here. And I can't remember if I show you a technique using the unordered lists or if I go a little bit simpler in there, but this would be an example where, yeah, if I want to create that horizontal nav menu, I would very likely in real life use an unordered list and style it to look like a horizontal navigation menu. Same thing down here with this navigation menu in this little content section. I know it's very tiny for you to be able to see that. Yeah, I will, in the video description, I will remember to put a link to these assignment directions right there in the video too. So if you want to jump over and check those out if you are not taking this class. Okay, I think we're doing pretty good here. Back over to the PowerPoint. Div and span are great. I still use them quite a lot. They used to be used a lot. Div is a generic block element, which you can use to mark up various sections of a web page. So on my web page, I used things like header, nav, aside, and main. And then I used footer. Well, back in the olden days of the late 90s and the early 2000s, we didn't have those tags. So we used to use div for all of those situations. Div is a generic block element. However, now with HTML5, we have much more semantic, descriptive elements. So they describe the kind of content that they contain. So those are better to use. I still use div. If I want to create a block element and I can't think of a good semantic structural element for it, I go with div. So for instance, you see right up here, this basic page container that I wanted to create, I just used a div for that. I don't have any spans in here, but a span is like a div, but it's an inline element instead of a block element. So I would use a span within something if I wanted to format, So I'll give you an example here. Heading level 2. I'm going to wrap the level 2 words in a span. So this would allow me to style the words level 2 within the heading 2 block element. Heading 2 is like div in that it's a block element, but it's a very specialized block element. So now if I want to format level 2, here's what I would do. I just head up to my CSS. Now you might be thinking H2 plus span. That's not correct. This would indicate that the span is next to the heading 2, but that is not the way it is. My span is inside of the heading 2. The span is a child of heading 2 in this example. So we have an adjacent selector if the element is next to another element, or we have a child selector if the element is a direct and immediate child of the parent element. And that's the case here. And what will I do here? How about the text transform lowercase, color lime, and how about what is it? I can't remember if it's letter spacing or text spacing. Letter spacing. How about 4 pixels? We'll see what that does for us. And so now, yeah, the word span, I forgot I had a green background on there. I'm going to change this to yellow. That's FF0 is bright yellow, but I'll soften that up. FF3, just kind of make a little bit softer tone. There we go. So there's level 2, styled using a span. Okay, HTML forms. I actually am not so happy that they included that here. Forms do come up in our 10-week course on web development, but it's really not an appropriate topic for our 2-week preview of HTML. So, you know what? HTML forms, I'm deleting that. HTML tables, yeah, those are pretty good. And those are relatively simple to get into use. I don't use them on our assignment. I don't use them in CIS-178, but they do come up for sure in CIS-195, WebDev 1. Table tag encompasses the table, the TR tag defines a cell. I'm going to jump back on over to our Arc browser, to ChatGPT, which is in the Arc browser. I'm going to say, hey, give me a world example of a web table and the code snippet used to create it. Let's try it. I think it should do pretty well with this. This is a relatively simple thing for it to create. Here's an example of a product list table of product names, prices, quantities, and descriptions. And sure enough, here is the code it gives me. It gives me a little bit of CSS code or styling code up for the top. I do like all of these. Yep, all this looks very, very accurate. And here's the basic table code right in here, which is all very, very accurate. I don't think I'm going to copy and paste that. However, I feel very confident this is all well written and it works well with the CSS. This would look good, I think, on the web page, but I'm just not going to take the time to copy and paste it. What I could do, though, this might be kind of neat. I can do I'll just do a screen capture. Actually, it's kind of big, isn't it? What if I just... Yeah, I think I will do a screen capture. I'm going to do print screen, and I'm going to get just the table part in here. I'll go ahead and copy that, copy to my clipboard, head on over to my PowerPoint, click on the border of this content, placeholder, Control V as in vector paste, puts that code sample right in there. I'll embiggenify it, embiggen it. There we go. So now we got a little code sample of a table in action. Yeah, I didn't get the styling, but that's okay. Oh, that's right. PowerPoint has all these cool little these canned style things too. How does this one look? Hey, that looks good. Call that a winner. Okay, introduction to CSS, which is cascading style sheets for sure. Separates content from design, definitely enables cleaner code and easier maintenance. True, true, true. This is all accurate information. Basic C and CSS syntax. Rules consist of a selector, property, and value. Selectors target HTML elements, properties and define styles, and values assign those styles. That is all true. Unfortunately, I've already got some examples we can use right here. So, multiple examples. This is one I did the other day when I was working with your classmate. But here we go. In this example, image is the selector, max width is the property, 100% is the value. Combined, max width, 100%, property value is called a declaration. So that's a declaration. This particular CSS rule, which includes the selector and the declarations, that's a CSS rule, happens to have one declaration. Now the one right beneath it though, this is also a selector. This is the H1 and then the paragraph adjacent to the H1. This one has 5 declarations in there. Notice all the declarations end with a semicolon. Technically, I don't need to put the semicolon at the end of the last one, but I do it out of habit. So that is an example of some CSS rules right there. I'm going to go ahead and print screen. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I've got this great little utility built into my editor here. That's right. I need to select what I want. I want to get several lines. I'm going to get all 3 of those. I'll do Control-Shift-P, and then I start to write out code snap. There it is, recently used. Click that. There we go. Now it takes a nice little picture over there for me. And I can't remember, it may also put it in my clipboard. Let's find out. So if I head over here, yeah, it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to Control-Z to undo. Came pretty well close to it. Do I click this? I click that. It makes a picture for me, which goes to my desktop. Fine, I'll do that. Then I can jump back over here, and I can click, and I can do, which one of these is image? Stock image. Image off my computer is what I want. I'm going to head over to my desktop, and there it is. There's the code. Now it puts that picture in there. That's a little prettier looking. And I like that because it also puts line numbers on it. Now it doesn't give me the exact same line numbers I had before, but it's a pretty nice way. So if you do want to take pictures of your code, often in Visual Studio Code, and this will stay open off to the side, Code Snap. And there's multiple extensions in VS Code that you can use to install that. But yeah, that one's pretty nice, and I use that from time to time, especially when making quiz questions and stuff. All right, what else have we got? CSS selectors. Basic CSS syntax. We got the selectors, understanding the box model, and once you start to put borders and padding and margin on these various block elements, for sure, you're going to have a much better idea of how that works. I'm kind of picking up my pace a little bit because I see my video has been going quite a while, and I don't want it to get too long. So let's see what else we've got. CSS positioning. This is a topic which I'm pretty sure might come up in the assignment, and I demonstrate a few things in there, but I don't necessarily want you to get too wrapped around the axle on it. This can be a little bit tricky of a concept to absorb, something we would cover in more detail for sure in the CIS 195 class. But I'm going to leave this, I don't know, do I want to leave it in there? I don't. I'm going to delete that slide. Okay, now we get common CSS properties. Background color, font family, font size, margin, padding, border, display. Yeah, good enough. Width, height, text align, line height, overflow. I don't think overflow comes, all that should be listed there. But yeah, you won't really I'm going to take that overflow out. Transition is pretty cool. Cursor is kind of boring. I'm not going to include cursor. Transition is neat for transition effects, but you don't typically just use it off the cuff. You generally want to do like with some kind of a hover effect, and which would be a pseudo class for anchor elements. So transition doesn't work on its own, so I'm going to take that one out as well. So now we've got the 12 common CSS properties. Introduction to Flexbox. I'm going to leave that in there because I do use that in the assignment, so I will explain that to you a little bit, and I'm also relying on it quite heavily in the little demo page that I was just showing you. Introduction to Grid. I will leave that in there too. We won't really go into much detail on that, and then we get to summary next steps. Recap the key points covered. History of the web, basic structure, essential HTML tags, common CSS properties, and advanced layout techniques. What I want you to do here, because you know, you're not going to get a ton of learning value out of this, so you might skim through this PowerPoint really fast. By the time you see it, I might enhance it a little bit, but maybe not too much. Really what I want you doing is over on I really want you checking out this assignment. So in this assignment that you're going to be working on for Module 7 in CIS 178, we're going to do this as a family here, we're making this web page layout. And if you watch these two videos, it's me going through the process of making this web page. So work along with me. Pause frequently. I explain all the steps very carefully because I know it's going to be seen by many students that have never made a web page before. There are a few students in this class that have made web pages before, so if you already have some web page experience under your belt, I want you to watch the beginning of this video when I get us started and see what we're doing, but then I want you to see how much you can create on your own without watching me do it. There's multiple ways that you can do this correctly, so give it a shot and see how it goes. But this is the web page you are creating with me, so go through those videos and check it out. All right, well, I had a good time doing this. And although I can't say I'm 100% pleased with the PowerPoint that ChatGPT created for me, I certainly see some hope in there, right? It did pretty well at creating the basic structure and some content and stuff like that. So I think if I were to have refined my slide topics a little bit better, maybe even giving it some sample slide titles, that might have been a good way to go. Yeah, it has potential. And of course, if you know PowerPoint a little bit better, then we can go in and clean that up, add appropriate pictures. It's not going to do really well at creating visual aids for many PowerPoint presentations, but as the image generators get better, we can expect that to improve. But I think there's certainly good potential here, especially if you know the topic well and you're using the AI chatbot in order to supplement and to be more efficient and to speed up the process. Don't rely on the ChatGPT model to do all the work for you, but use it for a tool of efficiency. So with that, I will, there's our awesome webpage with a few little demo things in there. I'll bid you a fond farewell and talk to you later.